Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I want to welcome Daryll Collins to the show. Tonight we are going to look at those Geffen albums from the Posies. Those albums span from 1990 to 1996, so we're going to have a great discussion. Daryll's great. He knows his Posies. So without any further ado, let's get this one started. Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse and to another edition of This is Power Pop. Though I'm not so sure this band is power pop, but I've got Daryll Collins here today, and we're going to kind of look at it and decide if it's power pop or not. I don't know. We'll keep it in that genre because that's what they are considered. But today we are looking at the 90s band, though they did go all the way to 2021, but I think primarily they had their heyday in the 90s. The Posies. So like I said, these guys were considered a power pop band. The band was formed in 1986 in Washington by primarily two songwriters, John Auer and Ken Stringfellow. But they had a good run. I mean, from like 1986 to 2001, that's a damn good run. They had members come and go in the band, but for the most part, it was just those two gentlemen that were the foundation of the band. Like I said, I want to welcome Daryll Collins to the chat. And how are you, Daryll? Nice to see you.
I'm doing pretty good, Grant. Thanks for having me on again.
Of course, it's good.
As you mentioned, it's kind of funny because the previous show we did was Enough's Enough. That band had two primary members who carried most of the weight with the songwriting and leading the band. The same thing's true of the Posies here with Ken Stringfellow and John Auer. And as you mentioned, the power pop term, with all the critiques and album reviews and everything, that was thrown out a lot, that they were a power pop band. And the band hates this, but for me, this is the most apt description of them. They are grunge pop, and I would say this is a melding of Nirvana and the Hollies. Now, you could pick each of their songs, and it's a little more Hollies here and a little more Nirvana there. Sometimes it meets squarely in the middle. But they are from Seattle, and that was the scene. And what a novel twist on the grunge sound of Seattle that they brought to the table. And like I said, the longevity of this band, I mean, their heyday may have been the span of 6 or 7 years, but they've continued to record for decades. The same thing with Enough's Enough. Isn't that odd that there's parallels in a lot of ways with these two bands?
Well, if you look at a lot of these bands, I mean, they had an independent album, but I want to say that this band also must have had a 3-album deal. A lot of these bands during this era, they seem to sign them for like a 2-album, 3-album deal. Now, I don't know if they were dropped after their 3rd album, Amazing Disgrace. Here it is right here. I don't know if they were dropped. You might know. I don't know, but they put out 3 major label albums, all 3 on Geffen, and those are the records we're going to look at. Right. Actually, those are probably most of the records people would even know. So,
but unless the diehards like myself, I've got just about everything that they recorded, and I can't rattle off the labels or anything. But those were the 3 major label releases, and they just jumped here and there, scoring deals along the way. They did have kind of a comp thing with a lot of B-sides and everything that was put out by Not Lame, which was a pretty popular power pop label back in the day. But it's as I lose the book.
Oh, it's 4 CDs. Nice.
And it's got a lot of B-sides, a lot of live things, a lot of demos, a lot of earlier things than their major label debut as tracks on here. And one of my favorite things on this collection is they did the Star Spangled Banner before a Mariners game, and it is one of the best versions of the Star Spangled Banner I've ever heard in my life. And they take they veer in different interesting directions, but stay true to the melody and everything.
So how did they Daryll, how did they arrange that? Is it a band? Is it a band thing? Or is
It's
it just
just,
like
I'm
John
assuming
and
it's
Ken playing acoustic guitars?
John and
I
Ken.
don't know.
And I don't know, could we play a bit of that? Would we get in trouble for that?
No, we could play
Star
a bit of
Spangled
it.
Banner. Okay, wait a second here. I got it handy.
I could hear it. Wow, there you go.
Pretty inspired. I mean, it's not Whitney Houston treatment, but I thought it was
Well, they're not Whitney Houston,
no,
and
they
they're
can't
also
go
still
that route.
alive.
Yeah, that too. So they
She's
got that
wearing a
going
dirt
for 'em.
shirt. It's a
Yeah,
little
they-
bit different.
So they got that going
Don't
for
do
'em.
drugs, kids. That's all I'm going to say. This is a PSA now.
Yeah, listen to the brain trust here at Grant's Rock Warehouse.
That's right.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do
kids.
drugs, kids. So anyway, that's a great way to introduce the band. That's wonderful, Daryl.
It's so unique.
It is.
I mean, and just the melding of those two voices and where they choose to put those harmonies.
Mhm.
You put a background of grungy guitar and everything on working with that. It's just such a unique blend. And I don't know what your introduction to this group is, but I completely missed Dear 23 and I jumped on at Frosting on the Beater. And that is really truly where the melding of the grunge and that Holly's kind of harmonies came to me.
Well, I think I first heard it on it must have been on the first record. Must have been like about 1990. There's an alternative station in Columbus that was playing it. So they would play, I don't know, maybe like three different tracks from it. So it was kind of on heavy rotation back in the day on the alternative stations.
Right.
No one else is playing it,
Nope.
No.
If I recall correctly, they did get some airplay on MTV, but certainly it wasn't in a video that was in videos in heavy rotation.
Right.
And I think the single from that was Golden Blunders.
Yeah.
Which Ringo also recorded, interestingly enough.
I think
Suddenly
they played
Mary.
it. Okay, they played Golden Blunders, Suddenly Mary.
Yeah, that's
and I think that maybe that's just it. Maybe those two tracks.
Those two seem like the go-to choices as I look at this list and not having any listing is.
Yeah, I don't think they released any
Blunders.
singles though either, did they?
Well, it said the first single was Golden Blunders. And it says was later recorded by Ringo Starr.
Okay.
And then it doesn't list any other singles there, but your station, if I had a go-to of a second song off this album, it would be Suddenly Mary as far as even an alternative radio station.
So anyway, this record came out September 1990. They got signed to Geffen. I guess we could have looked at that. I'm not sure what the background is. What was that? But we're only paying attention to the major label album, so who cares? But anyway, this record was produced by John Letke. If everybody knows who John Letke is, he's the gentleman that did, I believe he did the first two XTC albums. He was like a big producer, like back in the 70s. He's produced all kinds of people. Big producer. Australian. He's done magazines Real Life, Dukes of Stratosphere, which is XTC, Stone Roses, Verves, A Storm in Heaven, Radiohead's The Bends, Cast, All Change, big producer. I mean,
Yeah.
his work alone with XTC on the Dukes of Stratosphere deserves just
Oh yeah, ultimate praise.
absolutely brilliant.
And you could look at what he had done leading up to producing the Posies, and that's a perfect choice for these guys because
I
he
was
has a
going to say,
knowledge of that sweet spot, 60s pop, which the Dukes kind of, that's their sweet spot as well. And just melding it with what was going on in their backyard in Seattle. This is very inspired. I mean, I just set themselves apart from that whole scene in Seattle with your Soundgardens and Nirvanas and such.
yeah, you would think. I mean, listening to it, I listened to it today, walking the dog,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking, wow, you can see how it's not that far off from the Dukes of Stratosphere, to be honest. It still has that same kind of tonality that the Dukes has. It still sounds very 60s to me. Lots of reverb. The songwriting's very 60s sounding.
Mm-hmm.
This record, to me, you say it was like a blend of what? Nirvana and the Hollies.
And the Hollies.
But I don't hear that so much on the first record.
Yeah, the
Of
first
course,
record.
this
I
came out in
agree.
90. This is pre-Nirvana, so they haven't
Right.
changed. This is very
Exactly.
pure 60s type of
Just
songwriting, 60s production. The drums are probably a little bit more heavy than maybe a 60s record goes, but it could have fit in something, I think, in 1966, maybe 1967, somewhere around in that era.
agreed.
But
It's right in that wheelhouse, and you're adding little elements of the era, but certainly not how it hits you with that second album. Then you could really see the influence of grunge in this band.
and
And
that
that was
only
my
makes
introduction.
makes sense because what? Frosting on the Beater came out in 93.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I'm just wondering why there was such a big gap. I always wonder when you have these bands where the first record came out in 1990. I guess probably they were touring, backing people up. I don't know, but that seems like a pretty big span to me. It does because the record buying public is.
Oh yeah. Well, it may be a case of they got the first album just in before the whole grunge scene destroyed everything else.
Yeah.
And they probably were sitting there, and maybe they even had some material ready for a second album, and they're rethinking it. They're saying, you know what, we didn't really get the mojo we wanted with the first album. If we try and do that in this environment, we're gonna get buried. So we better jerry rig this thing in a new way, add some of the grunge elements to our 60s pop with the sweet harmony vocals and everything, and see what shakes out. So maybe that's part of the reason why it took 3 years. I don't
Maybe.
know.
But the first record, as far as reviews go, All Music gave it 3.5. Encyclopedia Popular Music gave it 4. Rolling Stone gave it 4 stars. So Entertainment
Shocker.
Weekly, which is a powerhouse in music, gave it a B+.
To them.
Go to them.
Yeah. Entertainment Weekly, I was like on the bandwagon with that magazine right at the very beginning because they were covering everything I was interested in, but the music was sorely lacking as far as my tastes and what I was hearing. It just seemed like nobody that wrote or reviewed for them was on same wavelength as me, but they gave it a B+. So hey, every once in a while the planets line up.
I would have to agree with that B+. I think if I was going to rate this record out of 10, I'd give it an 8. I like this record way more than I liked it when it came out.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it was overplayed, but compared to the other stuff that was out, you had Jellyfish, which I put above everyone else, I'm just saying. Yeah. But to listen to this now, the first record, I found it, I hadn't really listened to it. You came up with this topic. I said, let's do it. And I had to go back in and re-listen to this stuff. I had it. It's not like I listened to it all the time.
I know.
But
It's kind
walking.
of cool when you have a
I
whole
thought it
new.
was very refreshing. And the production, I love John Letke. I love what he does in the studio. I love the blending of their voices. I like the songwriting on this record. And to think that this came out like 1990, I'm just really surprised because I don't know. Well, I guess Jellyfish had already been out. Well, what, like 91?
It's very close.
Very
So I
close. So I wouldn't be surprised if this came out. But these guys like Big Star. I don't hear much Big Star on here.
Mhm.
And if I do think about those 60s influences, like you mentioned, the Hollies, I'm listening to it and I really can't put my finger on what they're really influenced by. It seems like they're influenced by a lot of different things, just kind of like a melting pot of 60s bands, but their voices are unique and it gives them enough uniqueness that they don't sound like anybody else. You listen to a Posey song and you hear those vocals, instantly it's the
Right.
Posies. And I have to hand it to them because they sound very distinctive on this first record. I could see definitely why Geffen would sign them.
Oh,
Great stuff.
absolutely. This is really just very fresh. And like you say, isn't it great when you have an experience with an album, you've not really paid any attention to it for like
Mhm.
decades, and you come back to it, and it's a whole new experience for you as you've moved down the road a bit
Mhm.
and can reflect back. And there's different aspects of it that maybe come to the fore that didn't back then because of everything else that you were listening to at the time. But to me, I mean, I can hear the Hollies in their harmonies.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying it's a carbon copy, and in
No, no,
fact, I
no.
could even hear early Bee Gees harmonies in some of these songs. Not so much on this album, but when we get to Frosting, there's a couple of them that I can hear that.
It's interesting you mentioned the Bee Gees, Daryl, because I hear a lot of that first Bee Gees record on here. I bet
Mm-hmm.
you these gentlemen were listening to a lot of that because that first
Yeah.
Bee Gees record's killer. And I could definitely hear that influence. Like I said, it's like a melting pot of influences.
Mm-hmm. But it
You know?
doesn't seem like a potpourri of just
No.
BS that's cobbled together. It's fully thought out, but
Yeah.
you can hit benchmarks there and say, aha, Dukes of Stratosphere, aha, Hollies, and it's all fleshed out and it all comes together in just a fantastic way to my ears.
And
That's why
just
I
yeah,
suggested that.
it's a
Just
great topic. And
tremendous.
I love what John Letke does here. I think he was the perfect producer, at least at
Yeah.
this moment. I think he
Mm-hmm.
was. He knew
Yeah.
how to bring out the best in the band. And I think
Whoever,
even after all these years, we're talking 30 years since this has come out.
yeah,
32
whoever,
years,
yeah,
33. Oh my God.
scary,
I'm 1,000 years
scary.
old. I'll be wearing a
Yeah,
dirt shirt before I know it.
whoever picked him to produce it, I doubt if they would have allowed the band to make that decision. It was probably somebody at Geffen.
I don't know.
Masterful choice. I mean, he was the right guy for the job.
I
I
agree.
mean, the band had to be thrilled to get him.
I would assume so. So, Daryl, what would you rate this out of 10?
I'm gonna go. You're going to find with my rating, I'm rather generous with the things I really love.
That's
And the
fine.
things I really hate, I'm really brutal on too. There is middle ground, but when I feel strongly about stuff, I kick a lot of stuff into that top echelons.
Well, on this show, I want everybody to be truthful and bring it. I mean, we're not out to try to make people happy. We're just trying to spread the word. And if you don't like something, you don't like something. But if you love it, you love it and you can't help it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just what it is. But
I'm going to,
after
I'm,
listening to this again today, the more I keep listening to it, the more I keep wanting to hear it. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm going to listen to it again tonight. I'm just like, you've got me all worked up on the Posies now.
there may be another edit when this hits the streets.
It
And when
might.
you said the 8, you're going to go, 9.5.
No, I
There
think
you go.
8's good.
I
Because
think
there
it's
are
very
other
fair.
things that I really think are absolutely superb.
I would give this not going to be like, well, 8.75. Well,
Well,
let's
you can do
round
whatever
things
you
up a
want.
little better. Judging from what's coming up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give this 8.5. If we're going to go through the 3
Mm-hmm.
of their major label things,
Mm-hmm.
I can rack them up and grade them. So I'm going to give this one 8.5 to 9. If I have to, I'll just say 8.5.
Okay. All right. Well, that's perfect. So, roughly we're around an 8. We're about the same. So we agree on that. Let's look at the next record. Let me pop that dog up. Next record came out in 1993. Frosting on the Beater. Now, this record tends to get even better reviews. They said this came out in 93. There's a little bit of a span. This was produced by Don Fleming. So if anybody knows who Don Fleming is, he's in the band. Oh God, help me.
Yeah, you're on your own. The only Fleming
Oh,
I know
Don
in pop
Fleming's
culture
in
is
Teenage Fan Club. Sorry.
oh, okay. Well,
God,
that's
my
news to me,
brain
and I
had
love
a
teenage. I
well,
love
I could
Teenage
hear
Fan Club.
Teenage Fan Club on here because when
Oh
I
my
was
God,
listening to
yeah.
it, and I kind of forgot who produced it. God, I could hardly remember who produced it right now. I had to go deep into the card
I
catalog
was
to bring that
trying to
up.
help you, and the only Fleming that was coming to mind was Art Fleming. He used to host Jeopardy way, way, way back in the day. But
So Don Fleming of Teenage Fan Club fame, during this whole period, Teenage Fan Club was also signed to Geffen. They put out, a span of some wonderful, wonderful records during this era. And in fact, I don't think, just to go on a tangent, that Teenage Fan Club has ever put out a bad record, as far as I know. All wonderful. So to
yeah,
have him in the producer seat, I am down with that.
yeah, they
So
have some tremendous high points. There, I will say there's a couple albums in their catalog I'm not too crazy about, and I can't recall the names of those albums or off the top of my head. But another great choice for producer. I mean, as far as getting the best out of harmony vocals and everything, man, Teenage Fan Club, aces,
yeah.
all that. Um, my experience with this is I think I read a review about this band. Like I said, Deer 23 completely was off my radar. I didn't know anything about it. I had to get the frosting and then go backwards. But
Right.
I did hear the song Flavor of the Month somewhere. And it was like knocked me right on my can. And it was like one of those songs that I could just listen to on a continual loop for about an hour and never tire of it. I think that may be my favorite song by them. But I jumped on the bandwagon here with Frosting on the Beater, and there are 12 tracks here, and I will say 9 of the 12 I give my top of the top rating as songs go. I love this album.
Okay.
This is where you see the grunge that was starting to overwhelm the musical pop rock landscape, just overtake everything. And they definitely incorporated the that grunge sound into this album, whereas on Deer 23, it really not. But here there is a complete melding of those two worlds, grunge a la Nirvana and the sweetness of those Hollies like harmonies really comes together in a great way.
Well,
I think Definite Door was, what was their single here? I'm looking. Dream All Day, Solar Sister, and Definite Door were released as singles.
that's amazing if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to admit that side one, it's pretty killer. The songwriting, again, the vocals are there. It's still listed as power pop, but it's way more alternative. This is not power pop at this point, I don't think.
Yeah, my
There's more PowerPoint if you're going to say power pop, I'd say maybe more on the first one. You're right. There's a lot more grunge on here. Now, whether you like that or not, this record's a lot darker too. Where the first
definitely.
record's a little bit more,
it's light, it's more of a pop
sunshine,
sheen. If there's more
kind of
pop
thing.
sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah, my listing says alternative rock dash power pop. So you could see, even as they're being labeled somewhat, they've pushed back that power pop moniker, and then alternative rock, I would add grunge, comes to the fore. Grunge pop is what I like to call it. But there is a vast difference between this album and the first one. And like I said, this was my initial exposure to the band. And honestly, I was a little disappointed when I went back to the first one that there wasn't much really heavy guitar, whether it was the grunge style or not, but there wasn't really the kind of powerful guitar work on the first one as there is in this second album.
Well, I guess it all depends upon what you like. I thought that the songwriting on that, I keep saying the first album, it's really the second album.
Right.
The first major label album, I just think the songwriting's just top notch. I think, to me, and it's not because I heard that one first. I just think that the songs are a little bit more infectious and a little bit more, what would I want to say? I think that the melodies are a lot stronger. I don't know it because of the second album, if it's the grunge thing. I don't know, but it seems like I have that first album like constantly going around in my head, and the second one never hit me like that.
Right.
But I'm also one of those guys who would rather have more 60s stuff than I would grunge.
I'm not a big grunge guy myself. I like some of it. Alice in Chains probably outstrips all of them as far as pure grunge for me. But I don't know. I think that's because that was my initial introduction to the band. Maybe my brain is wired a different way. But I love 60s pop. I love infectious songs. I love harmony vocals. I mean, all these groups that we love so much, just think about it, Jellyfish and Wondermints. These are all groups that are firmly grounded in that 60s harmony vocal kind of
Wondermints. Daryll, I hate to interrupt, but I tend to do that. The Wondermints. The Wondermints.
Yeah.
Another one. Of course, we're going to do a Wonderment show, kids, so get ready.
That's right.
But oh my God. I hate to say that, but how good are those? I'm sorry. I might be spoiling it, but I love those freaking Wondermints albums.
I do too. Just, when you look at the pinnacle for me in that kind of era we're talking about here, with these groups coming to the fore, between Jellyfish and the Wondermints, my God.
Yes.
I could just sit there and listen to those albums with my mouth agape.
But think about it, Daryll. Wondermints and Jellyfish kind of go together hand in hand.
They truly do.
They truly do.
Yeah.
And you can listen to the Posies, that first album.
It's right in there with them.
It's right in there with it. So let's say this. If you like Jellyfish, you'll like that first Posies record. Because I think probably a lot more people may know Jellyfish. I mean, both of these bands are fairly underground at this point. I don't know. No one's talking the Posies. Hell, no one's talking Jellyfish. But I'm thinking, just to give someone that first major label Posies record's not that far off. So
exactly. And I would feel comfortable recommending anybody that album if you like Jellyfish or the Wondermints. Now the second album here,
different animal.
The Rock Warehaus isn't going to lead you astray. Understand it's got a strong element of grunge to it.
Right.
But if that's in your wheelhouse, and they've retained those harmony vocals. And there are some songs here that are just an acoustic guitar with the two of them harmonizing.
And it's absolutely
Beautiful.
stunning.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Stunning.
So you've got a nice mix on this album. It's not, you know, hitting you over the head with guitars that have got all kinds of distortion and everything from beginning to end. Like I said, there are a few songs on here, ballads, an acoustic guitar, and their two vocals. Yeah. And it is astounding.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm just curious. You gave the other album an 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give Frosting on the Beater?
I'll give this a 9.5.
Just because of that little grunge element?
Yeah, it was my initial.
Okay. It was your gateway drug. I get it.
It just hit me that way. And like I say, some of these songs, I just have such nostalgia. I don't know if nostalgia is it, but I mean, I rarely have some music that hits me strong that decades later I decide, that sucks. I don't like it anymore. And my tastes tend to just be cemented. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that's just me. But this mix of the great harmony vocals and the harder edged guitar is, I don't know, it speaks to me. So
okay, that's
I'm
fair
gonna
enough.
Give it a 9.5.
I think since we did have Don Fleming producing, I think it's a lot more along the lines of Teenage Fan Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Teenage Fan Club. So I do like this record. But I can see his influence as a producer to some degree. It still sounds like the Posies. It doesn't sound like Teenage Fan Club. Okay.
Right.
But if you've heard Teenage Fan Club, this is very similar. It's in that wheelhouse.
So what number would you give this one?
I don't like it as much. I don't like it as much as the first one. I mean, the second one. I keep calling it the first one.
For all discussion purposes, folks, we're just going to go with these are the major label albums, and it's just going to be 1, 2, 3.
If I were to just call it Dear 23, it would be
Dear
better.
23. Yeah.
I like Dear 23 better because I don't need that grunge aspect. I'd much rather listen to the Hollies than anything. The Dukes, John Ledke production. Right. I just think it's the bomb. But the songwriting's here, the vocals are here. It's a little bit harder edge. You don't have that John Ledke production, which I really like, but it still sounds great. For God's sakes, you got Don Fleming, and he knows what he's doing. I don't like it, and I gave the other one an 8. Oh my! I guess a 7.5. I always tend to. I rate things a lot harder than a lot of people do.
Yeah, I mean, I find that's a different among people who are rabid music fans in their critiques of music, what they rate something. I tend to, if I really like something, I shove it up to the top. And if I hate something, man, there is no 4 or 4.5. Yeah, it's like 2, 1, -7.
I get that.
Yeah, we all cobble these things together differently. So it's all
we do. It's true. So I guess I give it a 7.5. It's almost up there.
Very close.
I kind of wish. Do you have the actual first record?
I had it on cassette, and I've got rid of all my cassettes, and the songs I liked on it, I transposed them to digital files. Well, that external drive blew up on me, so that stuff's all gone.
I'm sure you get another one. I'm kind of interested in getting that one because I've never heard it in my whole life.
I seem to think it's called Alone at Last or something.
I saw it somewhere not too long ago used. I swear to God, and I didn't pick it up. It was on CD, and I just kind of looked at it, and went, It was before we were going to do this show.
Yeah, I know.
Had I saw it before we had this planned, I would have picked it up, but now I can't remember where I saw it.
It's probably still waiting there for you.
It probably is, but I can't remember where it was.
Grant.
really gonna have to think about that. Well, I'm sure it's on Discogs. Anyway, all right. So 93. It's funny they have 3 years in between each record.
Mm-hmm.
So we jumped to 1980. Oh, I didn't. Oh yeah, I get my rating 7.5.
Right.
Sounds harsh, but whatever. It is what it is. All right. So Amazing Disgrace is actually the 4th album from the band. 1996. It was their final release for David Geffen. In this case, oh, interesting. I didn't know that. As was the case on previous albums, the band's label told the Posies to return to the studio to record more hit material. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously heard that this band, it would just take the right set of circumstances for them to have some sort of hit. And from there they could build, but it just never seemed to work out.
Well, you think about it. They've, what hits have they really had?
Yeah, Golden Blunders is probably the closest they came to.
Yeah, so at this point, 3rd album, Geffen's getting, look at that. They spent some money on nice display. I guess
you could tell that they were behind these guys. It wasn't a little cheesy little fold out that's got nothing going with it. I mean,
this is the last hurrah, though, Daryl. The last hurrah. You better come up with something. You're out.
And oddly enough, I think the single that they released from this album was called the second track called Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really it's probably my least favorite song on the album. I just don't think there's anything really there of great note. It just doesn't.
Well,
there are 3 songs here on this album that I do not care for at all. And I never listen to them. If I play the CD, I skip them. But there is some great material here.
Well, there's great stuff, but
I would have picked Please Return It or Hate Song if I had to pick a single, or maybe even Fight It.
To me, I listen to this record and it sounds a lot more Big Star-ish.
About Precious Moments. That's kind of
Big Star-ish.
Bit.
See, producer Nick Launay, Launay, and
Lonnie,
Steve Fisk on Ontario. And I'm not
for their single. They probably picked him because they figured his touch might get that. And
Nick Launay was he did Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. He did a lot, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Arcade Fire. He did a lot of UK artists.
Did you see where a couple of members of Cheap Trick are on Hate Song?
I did.
Yeah, how about that?
Well, I can see where the Posies like Cheap Trick too. Daryl, when it all comes back to Cheap Trick in the beginning.
Really? When you think about
there's not been a show that I've done that hasn't come back to Cheap Trick.
That'll be the case until you do your retrospective of Aretha Franklin or Celine Dion.
I can work Cheap Trick into that. So Amazing Disgrace, 1996. The reviews on this record, not quite as good, but Robert Christgau, who hates everything, gave it a B+. Yeah. Entertainment Weekly, your favorite magazine, gave it an A-. All Music gave it a 3. Everybody else in this list seems to have given it like 3s. Rolling Stone couldn't be bothered to look at him at this point.
No. But that I do remember that Entertainment Weekly review because they had done such a positive review of Frosting. I said, when this one comes out, I was stunned, A-. So they were big Posies fans there in their editorial offices there in the music critique department.
Well, what do you think of the sound on this record? I mean, we're 96, so grunge as well. Kurt Cobain's dead by this point. You still got grunge bands are still going. We still got grunge. Grunge isn't dead. Yeah. But so what do you think about the sound of this record? And what do you think about the cover artwork?
I love the cover artwork. Okay. I do. It's just
it doesn't scream by me though. It screams.
No, it doesn't, but it does scream Amazing Disgrace. this guy's in over his head.
Yeah, it does.
He's
Yeah.
like very lean looking gentleman with that barbell that's got way too much weight for his
Right.
spindly body. Look at those legs,
Yeah,
like
it looks
Mr.
uncomfortable.
Salty. Yeah, very much. So I love the cover, but it doesn't necessarily. I don't know, because the one critical reaction here that's listed with the Washington Post says
Yeah.
a combination of pretty melody and ugly thoughts, and it's utterly contemporary. Now, I think they backed off on the grunge a little bit with this
Mhm.
album and the sound. It's not quite as in your face as Frosting, but it's
Right.
still there, but they've backed away from it a little bit. You got songs like Daily Mutilation, Hate
That sounds like,
Song,
I mean, that's a nice title.
Daily Mutilation, Hate Song,
There's a
Everybody
lot
is
of
a
tracks on here too, though.
yeah, everybody is a fucking liar.
I mean, come on. Foul language.
Do they really have to do that,
Do they
Grant?
have to do that?
We don't approve of that potty
We
mouth
don't
stuff.
like that. Um,
Uh,
I
now
mean,
this, like I said, this one, not quite the lofty opinion as I have about Frosting, because there are 3 songs on here that I just don't listen to at all. So I mean, that's 3 out of the 14. So that's a pretty
think
big
about
chunk.
how
That's
jam
not.
packed it is, though, Daryl.
There is great
I
stuff.
mean, well, there's great stuff, but I think there's probably a great record here if we trimmed away some of the excess.
That's a big problem with so many bands of the CD era. They think because you can fit 80 minutes of music easily on a CD that they gotta for the
Well,
fans.
I did that
Uh,
interview with Flowerhead, and they were
yeah,
talking to me. Oh, well, Crad, Scott Byron, and they were saying, well, we talked about that because of the CD medium. They would just take that and they would just do like experimental jams to play out the CD, and it'll be like 15 minutes of noise.
I know.
They
It's
said,
just
"Oh,
like,
why not?" I said, "But you did that like on your first record. Don't you think that that's a little?"
I know because to
Well, we
me,
figured whatever. They didn't care. Well, it's fine.
they're doing me no favor when you're drawing out an album when you should be more concise.
Mhm.
That makes me a little bit angry when I keep on, it's front loaded and then they put 80 minutes worth of music and you get to like track 9 and it's really fading fast. Why
Mhm.
are you putting 16, 17 tracks on this thing?
I don't know.
Don't do that.
I mean, this record, I think I don't have a lot much problem with. I don't even know what would side one be. I don't think this ever came out on vinyl. Um, but
It's
for
kind
the
of,
most part. But then I start listening to it, and I'm going, "Oh, look, another track. Oh, another track. Isn't this over
yeah.
yet?" And compared to what came before, I don't say that this is a I don't say this is a big step down, but mm, mm,
You could see a drop off, in your opinion, is not
yeah,
quite.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't, for me, it doesn't have the number of high points that Frosting does.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some really good tracks here, but it's not as consistent. And there are too many tracks here. If they could have trimmed 3
Yeah,
or 4 of these tunes,
yeah.
it'd been much more of a powerhouse. But when I've got 3 songs on an album of 14 that I don't even want to hear,
Yeah.
that tends to skew my overall rating of it. But there's outstanding songs on
There's
this.
outstanding songs. The first half, I think, is great. And you've got the guitars, you've got the vocals, you've got the songwriting. But I don't know. They just sound a little bit more tired here, I think. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. But we've had 3 years in between.
Yeah.
You should have enough time to revamp. Who knows? I don't know.
A lot of times you got to think that a band that feels like it's under the gun and they know we either do it this time or we're going to really be scrambling. That's got to affect your approach, your performance,
Oop.
everything about putting the album together. It's got to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm sure they thought, why didn't we break through with anything on those first 2 albums? gets to a level like we talked about with Enough's Enough. It's
Mhm.
like, what the hell we got to do here? We're banging our heads against the wall, and them knowing that they're normally getting these 2 or 3 album deals. This one for sure was a 3 album deal.
It had to be.
Yeah, and they're thinking, what the hell? What are we gonna do if this doesn't?
You would have
reach
thought
any
that they
sort
would have
of-
just thrown in the kitchen sink and really tried, but it just doesn't sound like that to me.
Like I said, I think there are some really great songs in here. Like I have my little rating paper here. It's okay.
Excellent.
We got 14 songs here. 3 of them scratch off the list right to begin with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 8 that I really love. So I mean,
I think, yeah, I think you're probably right. I could think of taking off 10. I mean, I'm sorry. I think I could take off 5.
Mhm.
But like I said, I like the way it starts out and everything. It's very promising. But then, well, Terrorize is a bonus track, so I won't.
Yeah, and I
do
don't.
that.
I don't even think I've got. I don't think I've got that on my copy. Let me
Really?
check. Let's see. No, mine ends with "Will you ever ease your mind?" Unless it's a hidden track. Hell, maybe all these years I've played it, and when it's gotten to that song, I've just booted it out of the system or went back to song 1.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I've never even heard that gem. Maybe it'll turn out to be my favorite Posies song.
It could
Wouldn't
be.
that be something?
But I don't want to be harsh on it. It's okay. There are things that are way worse than this record. But if I was going to recommend a Posies album, this is not the Posies album I'd want someone to start with. I would either
Me
say
neither.
do the
You would go with Tier 23. I would, depending on how I knew
Probably.
the person. If I knew the person, then I would either take it there, what I know about them and what they really like. One of
Mhm.
the first 2, like I said, that's if I didn't know the person and just said, hey, the Posies, I would recommend Frosting because I think, they carried through with Amazing Disgrace and a couple
Mhm.
of the other indie ones after this one with still that tinge of grunge to that sweetness that they have with the harmony vocals.
Mhm.
But yeah, if someone's a big fan of 60s pop and the vocal treatments and everything, then the first one's a no-brainer. The first
Yeah.
major label one is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love it. So what would you rate this one?
I'll put this right in the middle. I gave Frosting a 9.5. So I'll put this at a 9 because like I said,
Wow.
I've got 8 songs here that are on
That's pretty high.
the almighty iPod of mine that only the best of the best remains on that iPod. And I've got 8 songs off this album on it. So even though there are 3 that I do not like on this one, the strength of those 8 tunes, I will give this a 9. The songs I hear that I love, I
Whoa.
really love them. I really love the songs on here.
Okay.
The good
Okay.
ones. Sometimes
I'm gonna
that
give it.
happens.
What did I give the last one? A 7?
I think it was 7.
Oh, Jesus.
Are we allowed to use negative integers?
See, I'm afraid I rated things too low. I would. Oh my God.
If you have that first major label one playing in your head already,
I give
if
that a
you want to
9.
bump that
Okay.
8 up,
I'm gonna redo it. I got to do a redo because now I would give this a 7. I
mhm,
would give Beater
for
an 8, and I would
okay.
give the 23 a 9.
Okay,
I
there you go.
really like 23 big time.
Well,
So
just
there you
my
go. I feel much
experience.
more comfortable with that, Daryll.
There you go. You'll rest easy tonight, knowing that you've reassessed and have given these albums their proper
Yeah, I
numerical
don't want to be
merit.
too hard on it. I would recommend 23 to anybody, though. I think it's a beautiful record.
I thought knowing you and knowing how much you love that mid 60s to late 60s time period, I thought I got a feeling Grant's not going to agree with my ranking, and I felt like Dear 23 would be the one that would
Dear 23
reach the top of your list.
Now I do have the album after this, Success.
Mm-hmm.
I got it like in the dollar bin. I've got that. And
Yeah,
of
let's
course, we're
see what
not
I've
talking
got
about
here.
it, but I do
Yeah.
have that. I'm trying to see if I've got any other ones.
I've got them all. I didn't pull them all, but Success, I'm looking at. I've got my iPod on my secondary computer here, and I can look. I've got 9 songs from Success on there.
I've
So
also
obviously,
got, okay, I've got two more. I've got Every Kind of Light.
mm-hmm.
I don't have them all, but I've got those two other. God, they've put out quite a bit. Kind of makes me want to go and listen to them.
I've got
See,
Blood
that's the
Can.
thing. You know, Daryl, we do these shows and then I end up spending money.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Blood Candy is another one. Solid States,
Yeah.
Success. Yeah, they've released quite a few albums.
And I haven't, now you got me all worked up. Now I'm going to have to go listen to them all again.
And then Our and Stringfellow have also done solo albums.
I've seen Stringfellow's solo album at Half Price Books. I never bought it though. It
Mm-hmm.
sat there for a while and then it ended up in the cheapie bin.
Oh,
No one knows who he is.
no,
I knew who it was, but did I buy it? No, Daryl, I didn't
no.
buy it.
These CDs, they still may be calling to you out there, Grant. You just have to remember where you saw them. They may still be there in the cheapie bin. Buy me, Grant.
I see Posies in the cheapie mean. You see Deer 23 quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dollar record at this point.
I see Frosting every once in a while too. I don't see Amazing Disgrace too much.
But
But
if you are not a medium snob and you can handle CDs, they're
mm-hmm.
out there and you don't have to
Yeah,
spend a lot of money. So
I know. It's like every time you get turned on or reacquainted with a band and you know they've got other material you haven't heard, it's like you could just feel those dollar bills fluttering out of your wallet.
I mean, if you're lucky, you could get you could get these 3 CDs for under $5 if you're lucky.
Yeah, just hit the right store at the right time with the right person that just sold their collection and you're good.
Yeah. I
My
don't
God,
see very much anymore though.
record store day, I was in there going through the UCD. Somebody must have just dumped their Nancy Sinatra collection. There must have been 30 Nancy Sinatra CDs in there.
It's
And
kind of cool.
Steve Schnee said that they're redoing all her CDs. It was probably a massive Nancy fan that dumped all the old ones and bought the reissued ones. So it was just odd. I'm just clicking
Those
through
old ones
there.
probably sound better. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that's a
But whatever,
possibility.
I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some guy. So basically, well, see, you and I don't agree on all of it, but we can agree on one thing. If you're
Yes.
going to look at the Posies, I would stick with the 20 Deer 23 and Frosting on the Beater
Mm-hmm. And you're
to
either going to be
start.
pulled in one direction or the other, or hate them both.
Maybe not.
But I
I
don't
think
see
I want
that
to get that.
happening.
What would you rate the first album? Because I've never ever heard it. If you remember it, I mean, is it worth
That's
getting?
many years ago, and I don't think it reached the heights of their major label releases.
Hmm.
But it's definitely more towards him 23, uh, Dear 23, him. Dear 23. It was
M23.
him 20. I'm Domino's for musical. It's definitely more aligned with that first major release. So, but I just vaguely remember it as didn't leave an incredible impression on me, or I would have tracked it down again by
Well,
now.
since we got a couple minutes, I'm going to look it up and see. Let's see. There it is. It's called Failure, 1988. And let's see how much it's going for kids, just because. The US pressing, you get it first came out in 89. Oh, yes, that is it. I think I saw it at a Half Price Books in Cincinnati when I was visiting my daughter.
Mm.
They had one, but God, that was Well, it last sold in March of 2023. The lowest price it went for in Discogs is $2.98, and the highest it went for is $10.
Okay.
So it's out there, kids, if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did they ever re-release that on? No, they didn't. Well, Omnivore re-released it in 2014. So it's been re-released.
I'm sure they're the band that in pockets of the country, there's more of a rabid following than others. I'm sure in Seattle, there's a ton of Posies fans.
Oh God, yes.
It
I'm
had
sure.
to be.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if they performed at the Mariners game, they had to be a big enough name to stroll those guys out there to do the Star Spangled Banner. So, I mean, they had to have a name there.
Well, Daryll, is there anything else you want to wrap up with? You want to say about the Pose before we wrap this dog up?
I think we've covered them pretty well. And like I say, I love shining a light on some of these bands that are really near and dear to my heart that for whatever reason never caught fire. Like you say, nobody talks about them. And I just think the talent and all the effort that takes into doing something like this, putting an album together, writing the songs, instrumentation, touring to promote, and then you don't really have the outcome that everyone would hope for when they get involved with something like this. We're doing our little part. We're shining a light. Hell, maybe we will cause a revolution here and people come out of the woodwork.
Could you imagine if my channel caused a revolution, for God's sake? We can't keep the Posies in stock.
It all started with that Zoom meeting.
That damn show. Now we're going to have to repress it. I wonder if any of these ever came out on vinyl. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I think the first two,
not back in the day,
era,
but they might have re-released them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any information like that. Like I said,
we only had a way to look it up.
I'm looking
it up. Well, I see vinyl. Oh my goodness. Actually, in 1990, of course, they were still pressing vinyl in 1990. 91's when things stopped. Though there were some things, Foo Fighters you could get, but very limited pressing. Like Nevermind is 91.
Right.
Very limited.
They had to know.
But Dear 23 came out on vinyl. For you vinyl people.
Yeah.
There's some up here for sale, but it's not cheap. You've got to have it.
Well, I imagine Posies fans are rabid fans,
and
to a lesser degree, like Todd fans. I mean, there are people that will pay buku dollars for rarities with Todd because they just love the guy. So.
Right. Well, Omnivore in 2018 put it out. So
all right, noted.
It's a 45 RPM on 2 12-inch records. Dig that.
Yeah.
Free audio files.
I just came across a box set of Jellyfish 45s. It's very attractive packaging and everything, but they're
used.
No, supposedly there's, if you go on Amazon, it goes for like $77. It was $99 or something. Now it's like 70 something, and they're just 45s of Jellyfish singles, or there's probably about a dozen of them with their specific sleeves and everything. I mean, I've got all their stuff. I wouldn't spend $77.
Well, all I'm going to say is those original CDs that came out back in the day, the 2 records, sound great.
All right. Yeah,
I wouldn't know why you would need anything else.
No, there's no reason to remaster or do anything with those. They're gold as they are.
Right.
But I think that's all I've got.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm not going to get in the whole vinyl versus CD thing.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's on this channel. It's not about the medium.
It's the music.
About the music that matters.
Absolutely.
But I'd rather you spend less on the music so you can get more of it.
True. So yeah. Don't let yourself get hoodwinked by shysters.
And like I always say, kids, buy low.
You get that first Posies cassette or album or whatever for $2. Don't be spending 10.
Don't be
It's
spending
out there for
10,
2.
kids. Get it for 2.
Hang loose a little bit. Don't get all excited.
Get all excited. You'll get it. All right, cool. Well, I think we can recommend those first 2 albums. The third one didn't set the world on fire, but it set Daryll's world on fire, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Eventually, I
Right.
wouldn't mind looking at some more Posies, to be honest, because now I'm kind of all into it.
Right.
I wouldn't
Well,
mind looking at.
maybe we'll revisit this down the road and take a look at some of the later albums, whatever you could get your hands on. I've got everything here.
Well, they're not
So whatever you
expensive.
find,
I've got
get them
like,
for a song.
dude, like the next 3 might be interesting. Let me get those and we'll see. We might reconvene this because I think the band is totally worth looking at.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's see what shakes out in the comment section and everything. And
exactly.
we'll be able to gauge.
Yeah. Do you guys do the people want us to do a Posey series? Why not?
Yeah, folks.
Kind of interested.
Use the power of the keyboard here at Grant's Rock Warehouse.
That's
and
right.
Leave us a message and let us know what you think.
And please like, subscribe, and please leave a comment if you like these Posies records.
Mm-hmm.
Please let us know.
Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think we're out of our minds?
Right.
Why did we even approach the subject?
I mean, are we batshit crazy? What is it?
That's right. We want to know.
All right, Daryll, let's wrap this dog up. I want to thank Daryll
Grant.
Collins for coming on. And it was a fun discussion. We kept it loose.
Yeah,
but
always a good time.
Everything's loose on this channel. There's nothing.
Why be uptight? It's music. We love it.
We love it.
It's joy. No need to be
Check out the Posies. You might like it.
Do it, folks.
Hey, if you're out in the wild and you do see the third amazing Disgrace and it's cheap, pick it up. Your mileage may vary. See, it's hard for me to look at these records on an individual basis. I kind of look at what came before. It's hard to do that. But let's say you looked at Amazing Disgrace, and if this was the first record, you could look at
just
this.
Like
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Frosting hit me different than you because you had the experience of the first major label release. So yeah, it's all, we parse things.
All relative, kids.
Yep.
So, all right, Daryll. Well, thank you very much. And
all right, Grant.
I guess the Wondermints is probably next.
Wondermints are coming up next, and that'll be another really great band that's right there in my sweet spot.
Yeah, Stephen Schnee's going to join us on that one.
Oh, okay, that'll be awesome. He's got a wealth of information that we don't have access to because of his connections.
Right. Well, every time I was thinking, should I classify the Posies under power pop? But I think, what would Stephen Schnee say? He would say, Grant, they are not. But I'm going to put him under, this is power pop anyway. And because, hey, when you look them up, that's what it says.
That's what the consensus out there was among the music intelligentsia.
So whatever.
Grant's Rock Warehouse was not even in its infancy at that time.
No, it wasn't.
Revisiting things. We're recalibrating.
We are.
And we may replace all that old thought.
We could. All right, man. Well, thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Please leave a comment.